Yeah, yeah, yeah. They making new laws every day, and those of the master they throw away. The things they go about and preach, it's not what they teach, and no one seems to care. The whole world lives in fear, just despair everywhere.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. In the name of Allah, in the name of the Almighty God, most gracious and most merciful. All praise is due to the Almighty God, the beneficent and the merciful. We give praise and thanks to God for bringing us together and for helping us to worship Him in spirit and in truth. And so I greet my brothers and sisters of different denominations. I greet my Christian brothers and sisters with the greetings of peace. Peace be unto you. I greet my Hindu brothers and sisters with the greetings of peace. Namaste. I greet my Rastafarian brothers and sisters with the greetings of peace, Jah peace and Jah love. And I greet my Muslim brothers and sisters and all other denominations with the greetings of peace in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, we are gathered once more together to worship and to praise Almighty God. In the societies in which we live today, it is so important that we recognize the presence of God. There are those who do not believe that there is a God. And I'm speaking to those who believe. Or in the Quran, when Allah speaks, He says, "O ye who believe." And the reason for that is because there is the recognition that it's not all of us who believe. Because we have reached a stage in life where we are very concerned with I and me and mine. And we are not thinking about we and us. The believers are people who think about we, who think about us. The unbelievers are those who think about I and me and mine, myself and I, my family, my children, my brothers and sisters, my father, my mother. You know, these people who go to church. They go to church, they go to the mosque, they go to the ashram, but still they speak about I and me and mine. And we have become a society, and when I say society, I mean not just Guyana, but a society in the world that are filled, societies that are filled with me, my, I, and mine, myself. And therefore we are experiencing those who say they believe and those who practice what they believe. Now, many of our religions, like for example in Islam, they speak about the unbelievers. And when we speak about the unbelievers, many times in our religions, we are speaking about those people, like in the Islam, those people who don't believe in Islam. When the Christians speak about unbelievers, are those who don't believe in Christianity, who don't believe in the Bible. When the Hindus speak about unbelievers are those who don't believe in Hinduism. But when I declare about the concept of unbelievers are those who don't believe in we and us, but who believe in me and mine and myself. That's how I see the unbelievers. Unbelievers have nothing to do with the religion that we belong to, but it has to do with those who are selfish. All the prophets of God, all the messengers of God have always brought the message of togetherness. Have always brought the message of us and we. And that's why in this mosque, regardless of how small our congregation are at times, there's always, you can always find we. You can always find some Christians, you can always find some Hindus, you can always find some from other different denominations, because we invite them. The Quran says, do not wrangle over the matter of religion, but invite them down to thy Lord and bow down with those who bow down with you. And that is what we practice. We bow down with those who bow down with us. And if we are invited to go to the religious places of worship from our other brothers and sisters, then we go. Because knowledge is what we are seeking. You see, ice cannot be made without water. Gold comes from the earth. A necklace, a gold necklace, or a gold chain, or a gold ring cannot be produced without gold. But the world cannot be produced without God. That's the whole thing. Even if we don't have ice, we still have water. Even if we have the gold necklace, we don't have the gold necklace, we still have gold. But if we don't have the world, if we don't have God, then we don't have the world. And that's the whole situation in terms of the belief in God. The thing is that many of us and our religions continue to direct us to worship a God that is outside of us, a God that is somewhere in the sky, a God that is living somewhere behind me or in front of me. We are not taught to understand the whole concept of God being with us. And there, the example of that is in death. God does not live in a dead body. That's why a dead person cannot arise by themselves and live again, because God does not live in anything that is dead. We don't understand that, we don't want to understand that, and maybe some of our preachers believe it's too high a level to teach the correct concept and aspect of God. The Quran says that God is nearer to us than our jungle of vein. I remember a story in the Bible when Cain and his brother Abel had a problem, and Cain killed Abel. And when Cain killed Abel, a voice was heard saying, the blood of your brother, he was speaking to Cain, the blood of your brother cries out unto me. We have something that we call the DNA in our blood, in order to find out the integrity of our being. And this blood that we have cannot be manufactured. It's one of the things that can never be manufactured. You can make a knee replacement. You can make an arm replacement. You can make a hip replacement. They make replacements for all the body parts. But blood cannot be replaced. And when Allah says, I am nearer to you than your jugular vein, then God has to be living in our blood. The Spirit of God lives in our blood. And that Spirit of God is with us all the time. There is no factory on earth that can manufacture blood. That's why we have a blood bank, where we ourselves, and here it comes again, we, this is not my blood. When you get an accident, regardless of if you're black, if you are white, whatever color you are, and you go to the hospital and you need blood, you don't know what kind of blood you're getting. You're getting blood. The blood that we have is the same. And that blood is able to save your life. There are people who don't like black people. There are people who don't like Indian people. There are people who don't like white people. We talk all these things. We have all these so-called racial conflicts. But when there is a time that blood is needed, when an operation is being performed and blood is needed, that blood is not determined from where it comes. It is not determined if it comes, what type of person that blood comes from. And therefore, it is we who have to look after ourselves. We who belong to us. Not me and not I, but we. And the more we are able to understand that, the more we are able to understand that God lives within each and every one of us. Because if God lives in the blood of us, you hear what the Christian says? Whether we accept it or not, it's the Christian belief that the blood of Jesus, they use the blood. It says that the blood, Jesus shed his blood for the remission of sins. Why did they use blood? Why did they say that Jesus shed his flesh, or Jesus gave his flesh for the remission of sins? They say no, Jesus gave his blood for the remission of sins. So the whole concept of blood is what we have to look at and what we have to understand, that that in us has no color, it has no race, it has no nationality. It is something that exists in us that we are bound to share with one another. It is blood that keeps us together, and blood that we have to share with one another. So the whole religious concept of I am not going into your church because your church is Muslim, I am not going into your church because you're a 7 Days Adventist, I am not visiting you because you're a Catholic, I am not coming there because you're an Anglican. It has nothing to do with God. These are dictates that have been given to us by people who profess to be believing men and women. How can you be a believer, a true believer, and then tell your congregation that they shouldn't visit in a mosque? Or tell your congregation, and even worse, tell your congregation who belong to the same Christian religion like you, the same Bible, that they must not, the 7 days must not go into the Jehovah Witnesses church. The Jehovah Witness shall not visit the Catholics. All belong and all use the same Bible. And we must understand that those kinds of dictates are dictates that help to separate us. The gold exists. The chain needs to have the gold. The ice needs to have the water. And those of us who believe need to have God. As long as we believe. We have this whole concept. I got a phone call from one of my patients, and she said to me, it was a very desperate phone call this week. She says to me, I feel like killing myself. I don't feel to live anymore. I want to die. Now, where did those thoughts come from? It's not anybody from outside of her. It's her own thoughts, her own concept of her belief. We are told about Satan, we are told about God. We are told about the devil, we are told about God. We are told about heaven, we are told about hell. We make our own heavens and we make our own hell. These are philosophies that have been handed down to us, and it's confusing us. They are saying that Guyana, for example, is a country with the most suicide rates in the world. That's how our country is looked upon, as a country with the most suicidal rates in the world. Why are people who live in a country with 83,000 square miles, why are they killing themselves? Why are they committing suicide? Why are they being entrenched into the concept of suicide and self-murder? Why?
And create his own monster. Weapons of damnation and disaster. No sign at all of human rights. The day has turned into night. Is racialism so? And segregation so? Which way is left to go? I don't know. Tell me, what about love thy neighbor? Tell me, what about he ain't heavy, he's my brother. Nobody cares a damn anymore. All they got on their mind is war.
Adam was told in the garden, Adam was told that he should not eat of a specific fruit. For the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Now Adam was given that order. Now listen, for the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. That is the order. Now Adam decided to disobey the order. The Bible puts it, for example, as the serpent. The serpent whispered to Adam and said, man, don't worry with what God is telling you. You eat, man, nothing will happen to you. Now, isn't that the same kind of concept and philosophy that makes people commit suicide? But who speaks to them? Where is the serpent that speaks to them? If Adam was a believer as he was supposed to be, he would not be able to be influenced by his thoughts. You see, the belief in God is spiritual. And that belief, that spiritual belief, makes us be forced to have faith. That faith is not material. It's not a faith of I and me and we. What happened to Adam is Adam started to think about I. You know, he didn't think about we, he thought about I, because he was told that he should look after the garden, take care of the things in the garden for the generation, for the people, for all of us. But Adam was concerned about himself. You see, I, me, just like we see that we are experiencing in our country, for example, where we have so much murder, so much killing. Last week a guy selling his bread, just selling his bread, couple loaves of bread to feed his family. And 3 guys rode up on a motorcycle and killed him because he had 2 rings on his finger. You can't look at a man who is selling bread. Bread, we eat bread. Bread is for all of us. These guys figured that this ring, the rings that this guy had, belonged to them, even though it was his rings. So they wanted it for themselves. I need that, you know. I would like to have that. We are having situations whereby politicians of a greedy nature, they are in positions, every politician, every minister in the government is in a specific position to help us. This is something that many ministers must understand. They are there to help us. The whole and the true concept of a minister is one who ministers to the people, who helps the people, who is supposed to be selfless, who is supposed to sacrifice his intelligence, his intellectual abilities to help the people. The Minister of Health is supposed to see that we have a healthy nation. The Minister of Finance is supposed to see that Guyana has enough money to help those who are less fortunate. The President to see that all the people in this country live a comfortable life to the best of his ability. But we have presidents and ministers all over this world who are involved in purely corrupt transactions because they minister to themselves. I, me, my family, my brothers and sisters, my aunts and uncles. You know, these are the situations that we continue to face. And then we blame it on the serpent. The serpent beguiled me and I did. That's what Adam said. You know, Eve, in fact, Eve said that. Adam said that Eve is the one that made him do what he did. And she said the serpent beguiled her. So the serpent didn't beguile Adam. The serpent beguiled her. But who is the serpent? When we do things that are not right in the sight of God, who it is that makes us do it? It's very convenient for us to say the devil, Satan. But let us be very truthful to ourselves and understand that it's our thoughts, the thoughts of I and me, that makes us do things that are not right, that makes us interfere, that makes us have and still want more, that makes us have a bank account and you don't have any. But I'm not prepared for you to have any, so I have you working for a small salary so that you can't save like I save. Who it is that makes me do that? It is nobody else but me. Nobody else but myself. And anytime we learn to understand that, we will be living better lives. We will be loving each other better. We will be sharing with each other better. We kneel down and we pray every day, and we ask God for help, and we ask God for guidance. And when we finish praying, it goes right back to me and I. You know, there are very rarely you hear people pray for others. God help me to this time. Let me, give me. This is what happens to most of us. And so we live in a selfish environment, not a selfless environment, a selfish environment. And we seem not to understand that unless we change that, and unless our religious leaders point to the whole area where God is to be found. Because many of us go to church, but we don't know where God is. Many of us go to the mosque every Friday, but we don't know where God is. You ask 90% of the people who say they believe in God, where is God? And they can't point out to you where Allah is, where God is. And that is why we can turn to other people and say, you don't believe, you are not a believer, because we have the concept of what our religious leaders are telling us. It is wrong for us to look at a person because they don't go to church or we don't see them praying to tell them that they don't believe. It is not right, because God is within us. God is within us every day, every hour, every minute. We cannot wake up when we go to sleep if we don't have God. The power of God. We see that because when we are dead, we can't arise, which means that God is not there. That's the proof that God lives within. We cannot exist without God. And anytime we are praying, we must look within. We must look within ourselves and understand that we are praying to a real, true, living God, because we are alive. And we can only be alive if God is within us. Because God is alive. There is no other way that we can be alive unless God is within us. And so when we die and we see the dead man there or the dead woman there, we know that God is not there, because God does not live in a dead body. God cannot be where the dead is. And so as long as God is there in me and God is in you, then it becomes we. Because once I believe in the God in me and God is in you, then I have to also believe in the God in you. So it becomes we, us, and not I and me. Once I am talking about I and me and mine, it means I become selfish. And once I become selfish, I then start seeing you as a Muslim, you as a Hindu, you as a Christian, you as a Catholic, you as a Buddhist. You know, I start seeing you as that because I'm seeing me as something else. You know, when I see me as a Muslim and I see you as a Catholic, if I don't see you as a Muslim, what makes me a Muslim and what makes you a Catholic? What makes me a Muslim and what makes you a Christian? What is it that makes us that? You know what makes us that? The material teachings of our religious leaders. But as human beings, there is nothing that makes me a Muslim and make you a Christian. For God is in both of us. God is not a Christian. God is not a Muslim. God is not a Buddhist. God is not a Hindu. God is a spirit that lives in you and that keeps you alive, and that lives in me and keeps me alive. My way and the rituals that I use to worship my God, and the rituals that you use to worship the God in you, which is the same God, those rituals might be different. But that's the only thing that is different. The rituals that we use to give praise and thanks to God for keeping us alive every day and for giving us the sustenance to be able to exist and live in this world. There is nothing else. You ask a Christian, what makes you different to me? Ask a Muslim, what makes you different to the Christian? You will hear the stupid excuses that they will tell you. You know? And in our own religions, we have these differences. Like in Islam, they would tell you, if you don't pray in Arabic, Allah will not hear you. So you're telling me about a discriminating God, a God that discriminates. I must learn to speak Arabic, otherwise Allah will want nothing to have to do with me. You hear how stupid it sounds. Now, Jesus died to save, that's the Christians. Jesus died to save the world. So if you don't believe that Jesus died to save you, then you are not a believer. These are the things that mankind has taken upon themselves to do to one another, to discriminate against each other, and yet they say they believe in the one God. There is hardly anybody you will meet on the street today that would not tell you, man, God is one. It's the same God. All of us believe in the one God. But yet still, I can't come to your church, man. Or I can't go into your mosque. Because you all are different. What is different about us? What is different about you? Again, the question is, what makes me a Muslim? What makes me a Muslim? That I believe that there is a God that is most powerful, most merciful, and that this God is my creator, and that I must be obedient, and I must worship this God. That is what makes me a Muslim. What makes you a Christian? That you believe that God created you, that this God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and that you cannot exist without this God, and you must be obedient to this God. That is what makes you a Christian. What makes you a Hindu? The same thing. So where is the difference? And once we start, or we try, at least to begin among ourselves understanding that, then you will find that we will be going in the direction of a different kind of society. One of the main problems of Guyana, of our society, is not only race, but religion. Our religious leaders are bent on keeping us apart. Our religious leaders are earning, becoming fruitful financially by keeping us apart. And we, even though we might be small in congregations, we have some small churches around, but people who believe that we belong to the same God. How can you deny it? How can we deny that we belong to the same God when we cannot exist and live and breathe without the Spirit of God within us? A God without color, a God without nationality. How can we not understand that it's one God and that we need to worship this God in spirit and in truth? Because the Spirit within us is the truth of us. It's the truth of us that makes us breathe. It's the truth of us that makes us eat and drink. Because the Spirit within us is the one that feeds us. And how can we believe that and still discriminate religiously against one another? And so from the religious discrimination, we go into the so-called racial discrimination. It begins like that. It begins from the religious discrimination. And from there, it goes into the racial discrimination. And our country is full of that. And we need to understand that the little moments that we have where we can worship with one another, where we can visit one another's religious ceremonies, where we can sit with one another, because don't we, our children sit in school with one another? Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Rastafarian children, don't they go to school together? They sit together, they play together, and after they reach a certain indoctrinated age, then they start hearing about who is a Christian, who is a Muslim, who is a Hindu, who is Indian, who is black, who is Chinese, who is Amerindian. These kinds of things are the things that has Guyana the way it is. And these are also the kinds of things that are contributing to the suicidal concept of Guyana. Our so-called intellectual educators are still trying to find out why is Guyana the most suicidal country in the world? Why are people committing suicide? Why are people killing themselves in a small country like this with a handful of people? Why are they doing it? And our educators up to now have not been able to come out about why. They have all kinds of different things. Rehabilitation centers, you know, rehab this and rehab that. Look at it, educators, and understand. If you have a son and he's growing up and he's in love with a Hindu girl and he's a Christian, he cannot understand why you're against it. If you have children who are growing up together and they play together and they socialize together, and you're telling them it's a black man, don't have nothing to do with him. Don't go around, don't go in the people's yard, we call them black people yard. Don't go in them Kuli people yard. They don't understand it. Our children don't understand that anymore. And the more we try to bring our children together, not only racially, in terms of nationality, because we all belong to nations of people. The African people in this country are not a race of people. We are too big. We are too many to be a race. The Indian people in this country are too many to be a race. We are nations of people. The Amerindians are a nation of people because, for example, the Amerindians are not connected only to Guyana. They are in Brazil. They are in Australia. They are all over the place. It's a nation. We belong to nations of people. All the people in this country belong to nations of people. And within these nations of people that are alive, there is God within us. The same God within us, the Spirit of God. And unless we start teaching our people that, we will always have discrimination. It is discrimination that brings suicide. And our educators must try and understand that. You cannot educate me if you don't show me and let me understand that the God in you is the same God in me. And the God in my other brothers and sisters who maybe look different than I am is the same God that is in me. And that I need to think about we, and I need to think about us instead of thinking about I and me. It is this I and me that is causing a lot of problems. This I and me that makes us choose leaders because they look like I and they look like me. There is a leader that don't look like me and don't look like I, but that leader is a righteous leader. That leader is looking out for the benefit and the welfare of the country and the people. But he don't look like I, and he don't look like me, so I ain't gonna vote for him. This is the kind of situations that continue to disrupt and interfere with the welfare and the social togetherness of our people all over the world. But here in Guyana, it is something that we need to look at and we need to think about. As-salamu alaykum.
Is a whole big runaround. A lot of talk is what goes on, while the world is left to mourn. Starvation taking toll, weapons out of control. The atmosphere is cold, so cold. Oh Lord, tell me, what about love thy neighbor? Tell me, what about he ain't heavy, he's my brother. Nobody cares a damn anymore. All they got on their mind is war, war. Tell me, what about equal rights and justice? Tell me, What about peace and happiness? Hey! They making new laws every day, and those of the master they throw away.